So today I'm Kat Farrance and I'm joined by Norman Blair, and I'm so thrilled, I really am, that you said yes to this and that you've supported us in this little way, Norman. It means a lot to me. A lot of people right now, I think, are going through some really tough times, very understandably. And I think it's really lovely if, you know what, you're a teacher who's dedicated your life to the inner world, to brightening our inner skies. And that is the name of Norman's amazing book on yin yoga. So if there's anybody who's looking for any recommendations, any reads, it really is fantastic. So we'll put a link to that. But Brightening Your Inner Skies is a beautiful book about how your practices really do, they can bring out the best, and they can change us all. And that's the amazing thing, because it's like we're all going through such tough times, but it's nice to know that we're all here as a community working together to brighten our own inner skies and each other's. So let's see, are we joined by some people? Yes, we have some lovely people here. Hi, it's really lovely that you're here today. I'm looking through my comments thing because it's never very easy to see. Hi Heidi, hi Cassia. This is lovely. So what I wanted to talk to you about, just to give folks a little bit of time to find us, is your thoughts on courage, Norman, because you send some very thoughtful newsletters. And again, I recommend that people sign up to your newsletters because they're really, really good.
Thank you.
But what are your thoughts? Because you always have some good thoughts on these things.
I suppose I think that courage is, like so many other things, a muscle, and we need to exercise it. And when we're courageous, that can give us confidence to be courageous again. And certainly in these current days, we need courage.
Yeah, we do. And I like that.
You know, we can encourage ourselves to be courageous by, say, being conscious of how our bodies are. And I think there's a direct connection between, like, physicality, the body, between how we're emotionally expressing ourselves, you know, courage.
So other practices, because we've been recommending heart-opening practices and strengthening practices as practices to help with building that muscle. I think that's such a lovely description, to think of it as a muscle like any other. What practices do you think might help?
I think there's a variety of different practices. One of my own personal practices I've been doing every day of the lockdown is, I'm very fortunate, I have a garden here, and walking in the morning, doing like walking meditation in the garden, just kind of literally grounding myself and doing it with bare feet, so feeling the earth below my feet and being aware of what is around me. Because when we're confronted by this incredible sudden shift to our reality, then there will be this kind of, we want to tighten, we want to try and push it away, but it's actually, okay, this is what's happening, and welcoming whatever, you know, sometimes what we bring is a lot of fear or a lot of numbness. Because, okay, that's how I'm experiencing it. So I think there's not one easy answer. There are many different individuals. We're all in different circumstances. But, you know, if you can, you know, actually getting outdoors, barefoot, and as I said, I'm very fortunate to have a garden here, and just walking around in a circle for maybe like 10 minutes each morning, sitting still. I also do a breathing exercise that maybe some of the listeners are familiar with, called Coherent Breathing, and I found that to be helpful, and moving the body.
Are you, has your yoga practice personally changed at all, Norman, since these sort of strange times are upon us? Are you doing anything a bit different, or are you as you were?
The walking meditation is new.
Yeah.
I've done that before, but I've not done it as a kind of regular daily practice. So in terms of, you know, what I do each morning is I get up, and one of the first things I do is get outside, and just walk around and kind of get that connection to the earth. I'm probably practicing more, Kat, actually. I've got more time. I'm not having to commute to Notting Hill or wherever. So, there are always silver linings in every, even in the kind of the darkness of these clouds, there are definite silver linings. And, one of the silver linings is that in some ways the coronavirus pandemic has been a pause button that's been pressed. And it's like, actually, I kind of talked about this in my last newsletter that, so many of us, we're like hamsters, and we've had like 15 Cafe Nero espressos, and we're like dashing desperately on the wheels, trying to keep it together, trying to keep it together. And actually, it's, oh gosh, we're not having to, many of us are not having to do that. And it's like, well, what's important? What inspires us? What might I find fulfilling? What can be useful for me?
That's such a resonant analogy for me, because I think that there's no greater joy in my life than watching calendar appointments disappear. And it's funny because I love my work and what I do, but my goodness, we don't half get ourselves in a twist with booking ourselves up. Every day is so scheduled and every moment is, and it's really amazing. It's phenomenal to have this time. And I know that not everybody does. And there are a lot of people, especially the ones with young children, who are, really having to keep a job and be with the children. And that is very hard. So that would take a whole other kind of resilience. So I think there are so many different circumstances here. It'd be lovely to hear from you guys what you're going through and how we can help more. I love Cassia says, so true, not missing the morning commute either. And isn't that lovely? You've just gained that extra half hour in a day to pause. And like you said, Norman, just consider what is that works for us. And I love that Cassia's also slept more, because I think most of us don't prioritize sleep enough.
One of the things I talk about in teaching, Kat, is I talk about the three jewels. So this is borrowing ideas from Buddhism, where they talk about the three jewels of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And a kind of modern version of it, I would talk about eating well, exercising well, and resting well. And like, if we have those pillars, then, talking again about courage or talking about resilience, they can be very important in helping us to be resilient, to deal with the certain challenges that we're experiencing, to have courage to kind of walk into life rather than kind of hiding behind a boulder.
I love that. Hiding behind the boulder, I think, is what most of us do.
It is what, or we just keep going because we think that's what we're supposed to do. That's what I should do. And I do talk about, we need to drop the shouldism. We need to go, okay, well, what's going on for me right now? How am I actually doing? And then that will give us the kind of information that will allow us to make our practices appropriate and make a difference in this world. And I think a really good question for all of us is like, how can I be most of service to this world? And that can be, I'm sure there are people who are working, say, who are doing tasks like driving or working in health or, looking after young kids, looking after elderly relatives.
Yeah.
There are many, many different tasks. I just think it's like, it's a really good question of like, how can I be of service to this world?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because I think so much of our lives are about the ego and the me and how we can further ourselves on the sort of treadmill.
Yeah.
And being of service, I think, is something which it would be an incredibly humbling proposition.
That's one of the teachings of the coronavirus pandemic is, you kind of mentioned this a little bit, Kat, of like, I make many plans and I've planned out the entirety of this year and I've been planning out next year, and the plans have been shattered into pieces and they're just crushed in dust at my feet. And okay, it's a good teaching of actually, it's this moment. It's just about being here. And of course we have to have schedules, we have to have plans, but they're all so provisional. And in so many ways we're skating on like the thin ice of life. And then something like this comes along and it's a really great teacher of like, wake up. What's important? What makes my heart sing?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And skating on the thin ice of life is, you've got such a lovely way of putting things, because I think that is sort of how we all are when we pile everything in to the schedules and there's no space for anything.
And we forget that we're all on thin ice.
And we do, absolutely.
And I think also, there's a thing of like planning and schedules as a way of kind of almost like boosting our own importance.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you'd never hear somebody saying, "How are you?" "Oh, I've got nothing on."
Maybe that's a sign of an advanced practitioner.
A very advanced practitioner. Everyone always says, "How are you?" "Busy, busy." But yes, the most advanced ones are the ones with no schedules. Absolutely. Gosh, yeah, that would be great. Anne has said, "I'm creating new practices, AM and PM, that bring me closer to my yoga practices. I'll be happy that people are well again, but I don't want to be giving them up when I return to London. Let's create a new normal."
Exactly. I think this is, I'm writing something at the moment, Kat, about, I think we need to, we have a chance, we've kind of many of us have stepped off those treadmills. And we have a chance to almost like reimagine how we might like to be. And it's like, we have this space, and it's a very precious opportunity. And this is a very rare event to, okay, well, how do I see my life? How do I see, my relationships to the people around me? How do I see my relationship to environment? Because we've just kind of carried on, and it's like we've been blinded, and I don't think we've really kind of taken on board everything that's been happening around us. And now we have this moment. It's like, actually, maybe maybe I don't always need to get more things. Maybe actually living a kind of life, a simpler life, a more straightforward life, a more ethical life, a life that's more grounded in like ecological sustainability is going to be healthier for both self and for planet.
Yeah, I think it would be, now is a very, very good time to have that sort of wake up call, now that we're all of us consuming less fuel, there's less car journeys, there's no airplane trips.
Yeah.
And it's quite an interesting time to have a think about how we can make things a different relationship with it.
I feel that in some ways the environment, the ecology is breathing a sigh of relief.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm in North London, and the sky is clear and it's really quite quiet out there, and it's lovely. There's kind of like some quietness. Things, rather than this kind of keep going, be busy. It's like there's some quieter moments. In that space, and sometimes when we're in the quieter moments, actually what we need to do is rest. Because sometimes when we're off the treadmill, we realize, actually, I'm really quite tired. I'm quite exhausted.
Yeah,
I think we can also think of like, well, coming back to this, trying to imagine how we might like to be.
It's a really good opportunity. We've had a couple of comments, and Heidi, thanks for writing in. Absolutely, my 2020 planner has been scratched for the year, but I find it cathartic. I do too. I feel great about tearing up the planner.
Yeah.
And lovely mum is here. Vera Farrance has joined us. I loved your podcast. She's just done the heart-opening yin class. What impressed me was how you offer options in various positions. I appreciate that approach.
Yeah, one of the ways I describe what I teach, and I learned this from someone else, of course. She said, she came along to a class and she said, this is prop option yoga. By that, she was saying, well, you have plenty of props and you have plenty of options. And I think it comes down to run like postures being imposed upon us. It's more about using the poses as that path into our actual experience.
That's so important, isn't it? Because it's actually it's a lot more grounded than in a sort of normal class where it's like, you must do this.
Yeah. Again, it comes back to, I said about letting go of shouldism. You should do this. You shouldn't do that. And it's like, actually, and one of the great things of, so I've been teaching classes this way, and it's like the emphasis is very much on the inner teacher. So I'm not in physical proximity with people. I'm talking to a green dot, and they're looking at a screen. And so what's so important is the inner teacher. So it's really like, okay, turning towards, how am I right now experiencing this? And so many different things can arise. And, one of it could be I'm feeling really cut off. I'm feeling really not here. And that's a perfectly valid response. It's not like, you have to feel very connected or you have to feel embodied. It's like, the question is like, what do I experience? How am I doing? And, that kind of gives this kind of gateway into like, well, this is how I really am.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that a lot of us lose, I think.
Absolutely.
And it's lovely to hear from Kasia. Like Anne, I've been able to do yoga every day, whether it's out just 3-minute class with Andrea for morning energy, a little afternoon break, or a yin class with someone like Norman before going to bed to chill out.
I think a very good mantra for our practice is around regularity. And I'd sometimes say, it's much better to do a little, a lot, so there's a regularity there, than to do a lot occasionally. So rather than doing like a 2-hour workshop every few weeks, it's much better to do like 3 minutes every day.
Yeah. I feel very, very similar to that. I love my daily practice, even if it's just tiny. And Laurel's having the same. It's like, hi, Laurel, it's lovely that you're here. Sorry, I'm looking on one side, which were the comments. There's been a lot of time for reflection. That can be difficult, but having a routine of yoga has helped so much.
I think it's very important to acknowledge the enormous challenges that we're currently facing. And no one knew what coronavirus was like a few months ago. I'd never heard of Zoom 3 months ago. And suddenly, and lockdown and, what's the word? Self-isolating and social distancing. These are like radically new concepts to us. And I feel that our nervous systems have taken a battering from the events of these last few months. And then what we can do is like be very grateful for the blessing of these practices, because they can actually, these kind of awareness practices, however we might manifest them, breathing or meditation or walking in the garden or asana practice, it's like these awareness practices are great anchorages for us in these kind of stormy seas. But I think it's very important to kind of, we're in a kind of bad Hollywood plot. To kind of, and I just, one thing I've been talking about this recently, of, when people talk about social distancing, and I really want to encourage people to change those words, because obviously we need physical distance. So that's the current unfortunate reality. We need distance. But as human beings, we require social intimacy. So I'm really, let's talk about physical distancing and social intimacy. And then it's like, how can we, like our mental states, what can be ways of like grounding our mental states? And like, doing practices like this can be so helpful.
That's a really interesting and lovely reframe.
Yes, I really want us to kind of drop the word social distancing, accept the reality of physical distancing. So this is needed. So let's be clear. This is needed. Physical distancing, unfortunately, needed for the next few months, for maybe next year. But physical distance and social intimacy. So I feel I've talked more on the telephone in the last 3 weeks than I've done in the last 10 years.
Yes.
Go out and contact people.
And look at us now. I think that this has created a lovely opportunity for connection. I mean, I'm feeling more connected to the yoga community and to the Movement for Modern Life community than ever before. And that's actually really wonderful. And it's because I'm so physically isolated. I'm just looking at the trees and like, yeah, there's nothing here. It's just the trees and the birds. And in a way, that's a very wonderful thing because it has brought me closer to so many people. So I like that. So we're not social distancing. We're going to physically distance
and social intimacy.
and have social intimacy, which is what we have. It is what we have. And it's so lovely as well that you're in your home in London and everybody's in their homes all around the world. And I'm here in Gloucestershire and we're able to be at the same point in time. You're giving us the teachings.
Yes, you know, I've taught quite a lot on Zoom, and you know, there are people from different continents,
Wonderful.
many different time zones, and it's great actually. There's in some, you know, that's another kind of, we could talk about the, you know, the silver lining in the cloud. But you know, actually connecting in this way can have its pluses.
Yeah, I think so. Anne has just said that. I have more connections and interactions than before. And digital has enabled updates with teachers I can't see regularly and improving, and Heidi says yes to improving my technical skills.
You know, my attitude towards technology is very 19th century. And my partner, fortunately, she's my tech support. But yeah, I'm very grateful for being able to connect in this way. And I'm very grateful for like technology that allows us to connect in this way.
I am. I'm so grateful. Do you think that we should have a little quiet sit down and would you be able to lead a little meditation?
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
Okay. So what I'd suggest is that being conscious of how you're sitting, and there are so many ways you can sit, as I remember when I said about prop option yoga, plenty of options in how you can sit. Very welcome to sit in a chair, very welcome to be sitting down on the ground. What I would recommend though is you're sitting on something like, say, a cushion. So currently I'm sitting on 2 yoga blocks, sitting in a way that is, I sometimes talk about a way that is sensible. So a good way of defining sensible is that you're able to walk away afterwards. So if you're sitting in a shape and you think, oh, this is what I should do, and then, you know, in 10 or 15 minutes, you're like, whoa, I'm going to have to see the osteopath next week. This is not a good idea. So currently I've got my legs folded back in Virasana, hero's pose. You know, you're very welcome to, you could do it like so, where you have the feet flat on the floor, the arms around the knees, so sitting up. You've got the legs crossed. The importance is this shape where you can stay. And then what I thought we could do, just kind of connecting to these themes of resilience and courage, we could do a little bit of a breathing exercise to begin with. So sitting up, so we can talk about shoulders over hips. And in this breathing exercise, we're going to look at making the in-breath the same length as the out-breath. We're going to be breathing in for 6 seconds and breathing out for 6 seconds. I know for some people this feels physically uncomfortable. I know sometimes for some people this can make you feel a bit agitated. So if that might be true for you, let go of the technique and just focus on breathing slowly in through the nose and out the nose. So wherever we are, whether we're in Gloucestershire or North London or wherever else, let's be breathing together. So sitting up, let's breathe in. And then breathing out. And then breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in, remember, without strain. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in, remember, without straining. Breathing out. Breathing in. 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 Breathing out. So I'm sure, as many of you know, the ways we're breathing can be profoundly influential in our well-being. This breathing in a steadier, slower way can be very grounding, and when we're more grounded, then that can obviously feed our resilience. We're talking about these ideas of courage. So from here, so if you need to change position, of course, feel free to change position, otherwise staying still. And just gradually, so moving from that place of, we could talk about breath management, just kind of releasing that. And of course, it will have its repercussions, but releasing that and just breathing in a way that feels natural for you. Breathing in a way that feels natural. And then being conscious of the contact between, we could call, the base and the ground. So however you might have arranged the legs, whatever you're sitting on, whether it's a chair, cushion, block, just being conscious of that contact. Feeling the contact. And inevitably the mind wanders. Just coming back and just the experience here, the feeling, the contact of base to ground.
Wow, we seem to have lost Norman, but hopefully he'll come back. So let's just carry on in our seated positions, doing as we were doing, and we'll wait to see if Norman will reappear. I'm glad you're back.
Yes. Feeling the base, sitting up. And then bring the awareness into the back of the body. Remember how we had the breathing exercise and the feeling of base. And then just being aware of the back. See if you can feel the back of the body. And of course, we're all in different circumstances. We're all in our own version of body. Let me just take a moment just to appreciate the strength of our backs. Feeling the strength. And sometimes that can be very accessible. Sometimes we might need to almost like fake it to make it. Just feeling the strength, experiencing the strong back. Because the strong back helps our front to be open. So the courage to be open, the courage to receive what is actually happening, wherever we might be, whatever our circumstances are. So now bring that awareness from the back into the belly. See if you can feel the belly. And then as you feel the belly, maybe just for a few moments, just kind of saying, just in your mind, soft belly. Soft belly. Because we can carry so much tension. A lot of anxiety can be stored in the tummy. Just having the courage to soften, to soft belly. And then bring the awareness to the head. See if you can, however you might be sitting, feeling the head. Maybe you very slightly soften the chin. So the back of the neck is soft. Feeling the head. You feel like the head is balancing at the top of the spine. Almost like a ball floating at the top of a fountain. So inevitably, attention wanders. Just coming back, just a few more moments, being aware of that head, your head, floating at the top. And then bring the awareness inside the head. Just take a few moments, just being curious. What is the mind knowing right now? Maybe you're wondering, well, how much longer do I have to be here? Or what shall I have for dinner? Or feeling quite quiet. This is a very useful exercise. You could simplify it down to an acronym of WMK. What is the mind knowing? Right now, what is the mind knowing? And then let's just broaden awareness, simply being aware of body sitting as however the body might be sitting. So resilience and courage are qualities that are needed in these days, these weeks, these months. And as I mentioned earlier, I believe they're muscles as much as, say, the hamstrings and the quadriceps. And they require exercising. So one of the ways we can exercise the muscles of resilience and courage is small steps, gentle pushes. And slowly we can be more courageous. We can have the confidence, the courage to step more out of our boxes, the resilience to deal with the intensity of the winds that we're currently experiencing. So now from here, maybe you bring the hands to the heart. Maybe you rest your hands on your chest. So another part of my daily practice is reciting this piece, and it begins, this human birth is precious. It's a very important teaching. This human birth is precious. An opportunity to awaken. But this body is impermanent. Ready or not, one day I shall die. So this life I must know as a tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being. The karma I create shapes the course of my life, but however I act, life has inevitable difficulties. No one can control it all. Only the Dharma can free me and others from suffering forever. Therefore I recall my heart's longing for freedom and resolve to make use of every day and night to realize it. So you could soften your chin towards the chest, almost like bringing of the head and the heart together. And then you could lower the hands. If the eyes are being closed, you could gently raise the eyelids and then eventually raising the head. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really beautiful, peaceful. That's everything that we need really right now. So thank you. I'm feeling very quiet, to be honest. If anybody has any questions for Norman, please do go ahead and ask them right now. It would be lovely to hear from you, hear any thoughts, anything that came up, anything you'd like Norman's help with. Norman is, well, you're an incredibly wise person. You've dedicated your life to helping and serving us in so many ways. So it really is wonderful to have you just here to ask. So thank you. Jane has said, thank you. That's just what I needed. And Heidi, beautiful. Many thanks, Norman. Cassia, thank you for a very grounding meditation. Yeah. I think everybody's feeling peaceful like I am. That's really lovely.
Great.
Norman, it only leaves for me to thank you because you've supported us, all of us in the community, so much. And I'm really grateful to you for doing that and for all the work that you have done over your lifetime that has led you to be able to lead us in this way. So thank you. Maria says, thank you. What a lovely session. Oh, Heidi, any chance of Norman doing a book club with his book, please? We'll have to chat on that. It's a good idea, Heidi, and it's always worth asking. You never know. And Anne says thank you as well. So Norman, it only leaves for me to thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank you, Kat.
Stay well.
Okay. Stay well. Bye.
Bye.